Trump's pressure on people, either other elected officials or government officials or common folk just trying to do their job. Trump's pressure directed violence towards people, threats to local officials, death threats, threats of violence. This fucking Trump, as people have said, he is a danger to this country. He should be removed. He's going to have to be put on trial and locked up for the rest of his rotten, useless life. Come on, Merrick Garland. So in the weeks after this bum lost the 2020 presidential election, he engaged in this unrelenting campaign that targeted people, many of them his fellow Republicans, riling up his supporters and putting in absolute danger public officials who refused to help this bastard overturn his loss. Now, at the hearing yesterday, the fourth one, if you watched all or part of it, you saw the committee lay out how menace and violence trailed Trump's election falsehoods. That's the way the Washington Post puts it. And the committee showed how several ominous episodes more or less foretold what was going to happen in these bums rushing the Capitol to commit murder on January 6th. Because Trump supporters invaded a state legislative building in Arizona, barged into the home of an election worker's grandmother here in Georgia to make what these bumfucks were calling a citizen's arrest. These white demons who went into this grandmother's home, white Christian devils, to make their citizen's arrest and sent thousands of threatening text messages, Trump did, to officials all over the country. Look, in Germany in the 20s and 30s, when the Weimar Republic still ran that country, this kind of shit happened then. I mean, this is so repetitious of what happened in Germany in the 20s and 30s. And yesterday, the committee had new evidence of Trump's personal involvement in one element of the effort to overturn the election. Ronna McDaniel, that nasty bitch, who is a Mormon, the chairwoman of the Republican National Committee, testified that Trump himself called her and demanded that the Republican Party organize this false elector strategy. Now, you know, Ronna McDaniel is Mitt Romney's niece, I believe. But the scheme that Trump wanted Ronna McDaniel and other Republicans to get involved in was to convene Trump electors. Even though Trump electors did not exist under law, Trump didn't fucking win. But he wanted these electors to convene in states that he lost, states won by Biden. Even though the White House counsel's office and his own campaign, the top lawyers, agreed that these phony electors had no legal standing whatsoever. And it was McDaniel's testimony, taped testimony, that offered the first evidence of this orange bastard's direct ties to the fake electors plot. If that isn't enough to send somebody, sheriffs, marshals, to his fucking house in Mar-a-Lago tomorrow morning and arrest him, I don't know what it's going to take. According to the Post, the hearings also included new details about Republican lawmakers of interest to the January 6th investigation. For example, this evil Nazi fuck Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin? Messages, text messages provided to the committee, according to the Post, showed that as Congress prepared to meet, one of Ron Johnson's staffers was trying to arrange for Ron Johnson to personally hand Mike Pence the certificates, the electoral vote certificates signed by the fake Trump electors in Wisconsin and Michigan, which supposedly was trying to make it more difficult for Mike Pence to recognize only Biden's votes, confuse, distort, threaten. An aide to Mike Pence responded to this prick working for Ron Johnson, quote, "Do not give that to him." And as surely as night follows day, a staff member for the fascist Ron Johnson tweeted after the hearing that Johnson, quote, "had no involvement in the creation of alternate state of electors and had no knowledge that was going to be delivered to our office," end quote. Which doesn't mean a goddamn thing. What did Ron Johnson do when this attempt was made? Did he get on the phone and call the Attorney General of the United States and say there's a plot afoot? Fuck no, he didn't. Now, the testimony yesterday had some of the most emotional testimony. The mother and daughter, whose names I couldn't think of, election workers in Georgia, Ruby Freeman and Wandrea Shea Moss. Ruby Freeman is the mother. And they described how their lives were upended after Trump accused them by name of engaging in fraud while counting votes on election night here in Atlanta. And Miss Moss started crying when she testified. So did her mother. And the mother, Ruby Freeman, in her tape testimony said this, quote, "Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States target you?" And Trump named this woman 18 times during a phone call on January 2nd, 2021 to Georgia's Secretary of State. And Ms. Freeman went on, quote, "The President of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one, but he targeted me," end quote. And then poor old Rusty Bowers, the Arizona Speaker of the House in that state, Republican, with the exception of Ms. Moss and Ms. Freeman. Almost every witness that has provided testimony about this rotten fucker has been Republican. But Rusty Bowers told the committee how he resisted Trump when Trump insisted that he, Bowers, take action that Bowers knew would violate his conscience, his religious faith, and his allegiance to the U.S. Constitution. In his live testimony yesterday, Bowers said that he told the orange bastard during one of several calls and meetings where Trump and his allies were trying to pressure him to overturn Biden's win in Arizona. Bowers said, quote, "You're asking me to do something against my oath, and I'm not going to break my oath," end quote. That must have seemed so quaint and cute to a bumfuck like Donald Trump. Oath? Oh, for Christ's sake, don't pay any attention. That's just for people to think that you're going to play things straight. Do what I say. I'm Donald Trump. And then Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger, one of the other two Republican officials that testified in person yesterday, Raffensperger told the committee he was inundated with nasty text messages. He said his wife began receiving messages as well, many of them horrific and sexualized. You can imagine what these fascist Christians were threatening the wife of the Secretary of State of Georgia. And Mr. Raffensperger testified that Trump's scum also broke into the home of his son's widow. See what I mean? These fuckers need to be eliminated. It's going to come to that, folks. It's going to come to that. These vermin can't be convinced that they're full of shit. They're wrong. They're going to have to be eliminated. Somehow. Eliminated. Raffensperger said during the testimony, quote, "The numbers are the numbers don't lie. We had many allegations and we investigated every single one of them." But that kind of stuff doesn't matter to fascist Christians, and certainly not to Trump. I mean, they live in a fantasy world. First of all, the whole Christian religion, all of the Abrahamic religions are based on fantasy, insane stuff that makes no sense, no logic, nothing. So these fuckers are used to thinking in a realm where nothing is provable, nothing makes sense, nothing is logical, nothing is sane. It's all invisible and thumpity and make-believe. And, well, you got to believe. You got to have faith. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.